Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. I am your host, Hondo Carpenter. I am also your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated, and it's great to be able to spend Christmas morning just a short time with you here today and really going to talk about three presents that, if I was Santa, I would give to the Raiders. The three biggest areas that this team needs to become Super Bowl winners again. Before I get started, I want to just quickly say thank you to so many of you who've reached out who are praying for Dexter. It means the world to Shannon and I, and we're grateful for you. And wherever you are around the world, we literally know that people watch this from all over the world. We get so many emails. They're all read. I don't get to read them all. There's just too many, but they're all read and appreciated. And whether it's somebody that agrees or disagrees, that doesn't matter. They're all appreciated that you take time to share part of your morning with us. And I just want you to know from all of us at the Carpenter family to you, I pray that it's a very Merry Christmas and you get to be and enjoy it with people that you love. I do want to quickly say there are so many people we hear from who are currently in the military serving all over the world. And whether you're a police officer who's working today or a fireman or firewoman, or you're an emergency worker, or you're one of our soldiers that doesn't get to be home, we get to celebrate Christmas the way we do in America because of you. And we just want you to know from the top of our hearts how much we appreciate you, how grateful that we are for you. And one of the things that my father used to say is that when you get in the military and you're in combat situation, it fixes a lot of idiocy and stupidity. And I remember once asking him, "What do you mean by that, idiocy and stupidity?" And he said, "When you're in a tough situation, you don't care what color the person is next to you. You just want to know, are they a person of character? If things get tough, are they going to care about me and them or just them?" And he used to say to me all the time, they should make every racist have to go in the military because when you go in the military, you realize judging people by the color of their skin is just complete and utter stupidity. And I appreciated that. And so for all of you, again, police officers, those working in fire and emergency services, our military, God bless you. And then I quickly want to address maybe your family's going through a tough time. I know what that's like. So I'm not speaking here from a place of faith, although that's a fine place to speak. I'm speaking from a place of reality. I want you to know I'm thinking about you. Maybe you've lost somebody this year in your life. And so this Christmas is a little tougher. I was there 10 years ago when I lost my dad. Man, that first Christmas was tough. But I just want you to know that we appreciate you. I shared this several months ago, but there was a study done, and I don't remember the figure now. It was an astronomical figure. For some reason, I believe the figure was in the 90%, but it were that people said that they felt like their life didn't matter. That literally, if something were to happen to them, people would just and carry on. And this whole study was geared around people knowing that they're appreciated. And so I want you to know, if nobody else tells you this today, and I doubt for many of you that's going to be the case, but for those of you that that will be the case, I want you to know the Carpenter family, you matter to us and you're wonderful and we appreciate you and we're grateful for you. And every single day when we pray, you guys are on our prayers and asking the Lord to bless you and your families and to be with you. And I just want you to know this Christmas how much we appreciate that you guys are part of our life. All right, let's dig into this now. By the way, I want to tell you, yesterday at practice, man, I mean, the guys were ready to get out of there and they wanted to go see their families. They had today off, but there was a lot of Christmas karaoke going on in the locker room. It was a great atmosphere. Our Daryl Craig Harris was there, and who's of course part of our on SI team, and it was just fun to well, you'll see. But it's just fun to hear about it. And the guys are excited to get out and get on, be with their families, and glad for them. 3 Christmas presents for the Raiders. If I were dressed up as Santa today, and for all you kids watching, we know there's only one Santa. But if I was Santa today and I was bringing 3 Christmas presents to the Raiders, what would those presents be? The first, and I believe it's the most important, the first is stability. You cannot be and sustain a winning franchise in the National Football League without being stable. It is so vitally important. It is so critically important. There has to be a stability. I mean, listen, I, let's just look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and set aside rivalry for a minute. I mean, since I'm 53 years old, and since before I was born, they've only had 3 coaches. Only had 3. And ownership is stable and leadership is stable. I mean, when Mike Tomlin first got the job, people, they didn't want him. They're not interested in him. And man, there's been seasons. Let's fire him. No stability. For my entire life, I grew up in Michigan. The Lions, they had stability in ownership, but no stability in leadership. Now, Sheila comes along, takes over the team, puts leadership in place, and gets out of the way. And look what's going on there now. But people wanted Dan. You think people are mad at Antonio Pierce? People hated Dan Campbell. I had family members, I had friends who would call me and say, "Man, you got to write about Dan Campbell." Well, that's not what I do. Now I write NFL as well as Raiders, but then I didn't. And why? He made some bad calls. He's terrible. He'll never be good. And I saw one of them recently with a Dan Campbell shirt on. Well, it wasn't recently, it was this summer, but still, you get my point. And stability. You just cannot keep firing coaches, firing general managers, making changes schematically, and expect that you're going to be any good. Just can't do it. And every time you make changes, you set the franchise back. Now, you may say, but if you're already going in a bad direction, isn't it a good idea to set them back? No argument there. No argument whatsoever. But the point of the matter is this franchise desperately needs stability. They need to get on the tracks and stay on the tracks. If they want to be a wide gap team, great. If you want to be a power team, great. You want to be a spread team, great. I don't. I get asked this a lot. Hondo, what do you think the Raiders need to do offensively or defensively? Here's the whole point. It doesn't matter what I think. We've seen teams win wide open offenses. Chiefs. We've seen them win with close down. Let's just be a power team, do some play action passes. Ravens. We've seen them win with a variety of offensive play mentality. Dallas Cowboys, when Jimmy Johnson was there. Were they a power team? Yeah, but they also ran some other concepts too. They were a little bit more varied. The point of the matter is it doesn't matter what scheme you run, you've got to get on the track, get those players. So let me give you an example. Let's assume that the Raiders were to change their scheme this offseason. I'm not predicting it. Let's just say that they were going to do that. Okay. Now you got a Delmar DJ Glaze, the mule, who is made for a power, who's made for a gap offense. Well, let's say you go in a different direction. Okay. Him and JPJ may not fit. Jordan Meredith may not fit. Don't know the direction. I'm just throwing this out there. Or let's say you go to an offense and there's a bunch of them in the NFL that don't use tight ends. Now, what do you do with Brock Bowers? And the point is, you have got to make the determination, what are you going to be? Who do you want to lead it? And then give them time. Give them time. I've said this before, and I know it angers a lot of people, and that's fine. I'm not trying to anger anyone, but reality is reality. If you did not want Antonio Pierce to be the coach last year because you didn't want a rookie coach and all of the issues that come with a rookie coach, that was a very fair opinion. And so you being critical of Antonio Pierce today, I have no issue with that whatsoever. If you wanted AP and you're not on the AP train right now, you are a hypocrite at best, because you were warned, especially by this podcast and our writings at SI, you were warned you're going to get rookie mistakes. I want you to think about this. I've got a deep dive article coming next week on Antonio Pierce that you're all going to want to read. Every single one of you is going to want to read. You go back and you know, and we'll get into Antonio a lot, so I'm going to kind of set that aside. But if you wanted AP and now you don't, shame on you. Shame on you. That means you're a person who just lives in your emotions. Ooh, we won a game. Ooh, we lost. Ooh, no. How do you win? Stability. The number one gift I would give this franchise is they are in desperate need of stability. Stability. There was a lot of instability. Then they end up moving in new stadiums. Okay, all that's done now. Mark Davis has done, and I always laugh when people say Hondo's a Mark Davis apologist. No, you're welcome to have any opinion you want, no matter how stupid it is. I am extremely um, high on the Mark Davis train right now, because from the internal view that I have, he is really doing a lot for this franchise. And I think he has grown into an owner, and he has earned my respect. And I am not afraid to be critical of anybody, but I am also not afraid to praise people that I think have earned it. And Mark has, in my opinion. You may say, "Well, how's he earned it? Look at our record, 3-11. I mean, 3-12. Okay, no problem there. But when you understand the record is the fruit, and to fix the franchise, you got to go to the root. Mark's been dealing with root. He's got this franchise in incredible financial shape, the best stadium, the best uh, headquarters facilities and workout in the NFL. I mean, it's phenomenal. Absolutely nothing short of phenomenal. And I can tell you, as someone that's talked to him now on several occasions, um, and I would never betray Mark or anything he ever spoken to me off the record, and I won't do it. But I will tell you that man winning burns in him. And if you think the criticism of the fans bothers him, nobody likes that. But I can tell you, it doesn't mean anything to him like the fire and criticism he's giving himself. Okay, I'm gonna acknowledge that. That's being fair. And Mark has done everything to set the stage for this franchise to be stable. Now they've got to get stability in leadership, which I think Tom Telesco has offered. I was asked recently about my thoughts on Tom Telesco. I wouldn't touch Tom Telesco with a 10-foot pole. I think Tom Telesco, you saw, although Tom would never admit this to you because he is a man of integrity and he's a man of character. Tom Telesco would never admit this to you, but Tom Telesco did what he thought was best. And then he also did what he was told to do by his owners in LA. That's what he was told. And he has never taken a cheap shot at them. If you were to talk to Tom Telesco, the only thing you would hear is that, no, it didn't work, his fault. No, that's Tom Telesco. That's called integrity. I think you can see with his first draft with the Raiders how good he did. how good he did. And at this point, I've seen nothing from Tom Telesco that makes me think anything less of him. Okay. Coaching. All right. So you got a rookie coach that's made some rookie mistakes. Okay. Well, they've been big mistakes. I agree. But okay. You knew that. Delmar DJ Glaze, the mule, made some mistakes. JPJ's made some mistakes. DeCamerion Richardson made some mistakes. Brock Bowers hasn't made any mistakes. Okay, but he's a unicorn. That kid don't count. But you got a bunch of young players. They've all made mistakes. That's what young players do. It's what young coaches do. So stability. And if they make a decision, if Tom Telesco and Mark Davis and Tom Brady sit down and they're like, listen, this is not the direction we should go. But Tom Telesco made it clear last year when they asked him who should be the head coach. He said, Antonio Pierce, he's earned that shot. So Tom owns that decision. And rightfully so, by the way. And that's not a slam on Tom at all. I think you got to stay the course. But stability, number one. Number two, this team is in desperate need of a franchise quarterback. Now, you saw last year Aiden O'Connell demonstrate a lot of interesting behaviors and play. You did not see enough to say he can't be a franchise quarterback, but you saw enough to think he might be, and you did not see enough to say he isn't. Now, coming into this year, they go and Luke Getzey was very vocal, kind of what he was looking for, and they go and they get Gardner Minshew. And Gardner and Aiden both took a step back under the leadership of Luke Getzey. So going again by the principles I learned from Bobby Bowden, the great Florida State head football coach, I'm putting that squarely on Getzey. And there's a lot more, and I'll get to that at the end of the year. But you look at both quarterbacks went backwards. Once the change was made, you didn't see a whole lot of Gardner, but you certainly saw Aiden make progress this last game and certainly against the Chiefs. Do I think that you have seen enough from Aiden O'Connell to say definitively he is not a franchise quarterback? I do not believe that. Do I believe, unlike last year, there are more reasons to think maybe he's not than he is? Absolutely. I think that's fair. Do I think there's enough to completely rule him out and say not a franchise quarterback? Well, I'm going to say this to you. If you think that you have enough information with Aiden O'Connell to rule him out, now I'm not saying he is, but if you think there's enough information to rule him out that he absolutely is not, then you would have been a person who would have ruled out Jim Plunkett when he came. Because Jim Plunkett got more experience than Aiden before Aiden got here, and Jim Plunkett was worse. But he came, Al Davis put him on the bench, and he got an opportunity to become one of the greatest of all time. I don't know that Aiden's that, and I'm not saying he is. I'm telling you why I'm trying to be fair. Now, here's my point. You can't win in the NFL without a franchise quarterback. And right now, at this moment, the Raiders do not have one. With that said, I think that they should be drafting quarterbacks till they find one. Okay. So I think you go out and you determine who are the best quarterbacks in this draft and where do we think their value is. Now, if there's a franchise guy, a dude, and you're like, listen, and let's just use Shador as an example. Shador's the guy. He is a Peyton Manning. He is a Andrew Luck, whatever. Now, I'm going to tell you this. In all of the people that I have spoken to, both Raiders and other NFL teams, no one has told me that there is a dude or a can't miss prospect in this draft. Not one person has told me that. Now, also in fairness, I've not done enough evaluating to know that as a definitive statement on this class at this moment. But no one's told me that so far. So if there's not, then you got to look at where, and I'm using the Raider voice, where are we picking? Okay, remember, good football teams don't take risks in the first round. So let's assume the Raiders have pick 10. Wherever they pick, let's say 8 for some of you going to get mad. We'll never be 10. All right, whatever. I'm not arguing about the place. So let's say that you're sitting there at 8. And so you are looking at it. Is there a pick that you have a value of pick 8 at? So let's go back to last year. The Raiders had a number 1 overall grade on Brock Bowers. So when they got to their position and they got plenty of offers for their pick, not one of the offers equaled what they thought the value of Brock Bowers was, BPA, best player available. So people say, well, people offered him what was on the Jimmy Johnson trade chart. Yeah, well, the Jimmy Johnson trade chart is a guideline. But if I'm sitting there at pick 20 and I think I've got the number 1 overall pick on my radar, or if I'm sitting there at 8 and I've got the number 1 overall pick still on the radar, I'm not trading with you for number 8. I'm trading with you for number 1. So wherever they pick, if they feel like there is a cornerback of the value at that spot, you grab them. Or if you think, man, there's a quarterback here and he's a value 3, he's a 3rd overall pick, then you trade up if you can and get that guy. I don't think you sit back and don't get another quarterback and wait out Aiden. No, I don't think that at all. So I think you find out the best quarterback and then you grade that with a BPA, best player available. There were some quarterbacks on the board when the Raiders picked last year, but none of them had the value of a Brock Bowers, so they took Brock. So I think if you think, okay, this player is a 1 or this player is a 3rd overall pick, and we can go up there and get them, then you go and get them. If not, wherever you can find the best player available and grab a quarterback, again, whether it's first round, first pick, or Mr. Irrelevant or free agent, but wherever you can find a quarterback, and you come in and you have a competition with Aiden and that player and another veteran. But my second gift to the Raiders would absolutely positively be a franchise quarterback. Third, and this is a big one, is there is times, and I want you to please hear me out on this. I plead with you to hear me out on this. There are times inside Raider Nation where this fan base has been told just win for so long and it hasn't happened, that there's seeds of bitterness. And I'm not saying that you're wrong to be hurt, but it's become at times toxic, and I know it's hurt the franchise. I know it's hurt the franchise. Now, let's be clear. So I had a sister that went through a horrible divorce. Okay, now I love my sister with my whole heart. She is now passed and she's not with us anymore, but my sister went through a horrible divorce, great pain in her life. And I will never forget one day my father saying to my sister that although what happened to her was something that should never happen to any human, her response to it was her choice, and that she couldn't let her life become toxic because of what something else happened. Now, hear me out for a minute. The losing, the lack of stability, the poor drafting, the poor decisions, none of that is the fault of the fans. Not one bit of it is the fault of the fans. Fans have been incredible. But here is the issue, and I please ask you to hear this, is at times it becomes so toxic that I know of teams that when the Raiders were going after free agents, they showed potential free agents tweets from Raider fans to Raider players. They've shown them comments by Raider fans on Facebook. And there are times that the fandom has become toxic and it's hurt your team. It's hurt your team. I see it all the time. I'll write an article on and we'll tweet it out, and you'll see one member of Raider Nation who doesn't like the article, and another person comes in and is just vulgar and just attacks them. And some that toxicity, this is an awesome fan base. 90%, 99% of this fan base is absolutely over the top incredible. And I can tell you, as somebody that frequents Lot J, and by the way, if you're at the last game, um, Shannon and Dexter are going to be with me, the Lord willing, at that Chargers game. I sure hope to see all of you in Lot J. Come say hi to Dexter. We're going to believe that he's going to be back and ready to go and in great shape. And of course, come see my beautiful bride, but come see us in Lot J if you would. But um, and they just go after each other. But when you go to Lot J, it is exactly what Raider Nation is all about. I tell I DM'd a guy one time on Twitter who was just being vulgar and nasty to fans, and I said, "Let me ask you a question. Would have you ever been to Lot J? No. Can I ask a favor of you? Will you just not attack other Raider fans till you go to Lot J? There is nothing wrong with disagreement. I love my wife. My goodness. I told her this morning when we woke up, it's Christmas Day every day when I get to wake up and you're my sweetie. And I mean it. But we disagree. But when we disagree, we don't have to go after one another. We don't have to attack. And I just think sometimes the toxicity, and I understand the toxicity's been created from external things that fans don't control. I get the anger. I understand it. I have said this to you before, and I will say it again. Every single person in that stadium, from the referee to the owner to the media to the popcorn salesman to the guy taking tickets and the people helping you park, everybody's getting paid but the fan. Let's not pretend that's not reality. And they're spending a ton of money. I know, because my wife and kids are all Raider fans and they wanted Raider stuff. So I know how much it costs. I may not be a Raider fan, but my entire family is. I get that. I get it. And I understand it. But the toxicity, the Raider on Raider stuff, this is your family. Guess what? Somebody can think that Aiden O'Connell is not a franchise quarterback, and it doesn't make him a bad person, and it doesn't make him a bad Raider fan. Just like the person that thinks Aiden O'Connell is the next Kenny Stabler, but Raider fans need to be patient, isn't a bad person or a bad Raider fan. You may completely disagree, and that's fun. That's what makes social media and going on Facebook pages like our Las Vegas Raiders Insider page. That's what makes it fun. I don't ever want you to stop the disagreeing and the discussion and all that. But the toxicity, you don't need it. I'm not going to tell you who, but in just a couple weeks, I'll begin my 6th year covering the Raiders. And I remember one time a Raider player was in a really bad place. And I walked up to them and put my arm on their shoulder and said, "Hey, I'm not here as a media guy. I'm just here because I'm your friend." I said, "You're really hurting. I can just tell as a man. Are you all right?" And he looked at me and he wasn't crying, but tears were in his eyes. And he goes, "These people hate me." And I can tell you that was not the case. I do not believe in any way that the Raiders fans hated this guy, but that was all he heard. And I don't care if you're a millionaire football player or you're a person working at a terrible gas station at the cashier and people don't like the price of gas prices, so they yell at you. You can only hear so much of that until, if you're not careful, you internalize it. You internalize it and it becomes toxic. So that would be my third gift for Raider Nation. First is stability. Second is a franchise quarterback. And third is a reduction in the toxicity. I'll tell it to you this way: in our country, we are divided politically. Okay, and if you can't love people who disagree with your politics, then you're the problem. I don't care if people agree with me or disagree with me politically. I never talk politics on this podcast. I have family members that are humongous Donald Trump supporters, and I have family members who are humongous Kamala Harris supporters. But do you know what they both have in common? I love them. I love them. And I wish sometimes Raider Nation, I wish you could see you the way I do. I have so much respect for this fan base. You are smart, you are intelligent, you know the game of football, you are passionate, you care. I don't want any of that to change. But at times, the toxicity, for reasons that you don't control, is brutal. It's brutal. And I would love for you as a franchise to see that change. All right. From all of us on our on SI team, and man, we got such a big team now. I think now we are up to 23 or 24 people. But from all of us and from SI as an entire entity, we appreciate you. We're grateful for you. I wish you the heartiest of a very Merry Christmas. And I thank you for sharing your time. If you're not a person who celebrates Christmas, then of course I wish you a happy Hanukkah or maybe even Festivus. Maybe you just don't do Christmas at all. I know there are some people that don't. That's okay. I don't think less of you in the least bit. Don't care. Care about you. Thank you for being with us. God bless you all, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye bye.